I got green trees growing in my backyard. I'm on the other side where the grass grows, and I'm planting my seeds right here, and you're not around to see. But I know in time you'll be eventually. Meet me on the other side. They say that time will eventually stop. The future's my tomorrow. Though it was written, tomorrow's not promised to me. I know my life was given to me. God had a purpose and meaning. Me fiending for glamour and gleam just shatters a dream. I'd rather just be me being here.
First, got involved with the Ethnic Studies program when I was a student, and there was a sit-in that was organized to demand that the university continue the program. And so I joined as a student and went and sat in for 2 nights, 3 days. And by the end of the sit-in, the university agreed to continue the program, and they established a People's Committee on Ethnic Studies, which would have 5 students, 5 faculty, and 5 community members. So I was one of the student representatives.
Around 1972, the Ethnic Studies program was threatened with extinction by various forces who did not want it to continue for their own reasons. And I thought it was worth supporting, so there were other people too. I think Brahim was involved in this and others. And we fought for the program, and when the fight was over, then suddenly they needed some people to teach it, And since I had, at that time I had a master's degree, they said, why don't you teach a couple of courses too? And I said, okay, I'll teach part-time. Little did I know. Beware of the commitments you make. Because little did I know that this would wind up being a 42-year stint. So, you know, that's the story.
And how would you describe like your relationship with your fellow ethnic studies staff members, the ones that have been here since the 70s?
You want the truth?
They're all gonna hear it, but yes, always true.
Well, our faculty has, we basically have a similar outlook toward the world.
One of the things that I've really valued since being here is just understanding how Native Hawaiian knowledge can really challenge a lot of the existing ways that we approach life and think about, politics, capitalism, social relationships, and stuff like that. So I think that's one thing that I would definitely say is unique to Hawaii.
Okay. Yeah, how would you compare UC San Diego's to maybe Hawaii or any of the mainland ethnic studies programs?
I think there's always going to be some similarities and differences based on the geography, based on the politics of the places that they're in. And so, at San Diego, a lot of the projects that students were involved with, as well as faculty together, were based around the issues that in those cities and those areas. And so a lot of things at San Diego are based around sort of like issues of the U.S.-Mexico border, immigration. So really rich histories and really rich histories of activism. And I think you can see a lot of the same things here in Hawaii as well. Things that I've learned, because I'm relatively new to Hawaii, so a lot of things that I've learned about is like things around cultural nationalism when it comes to sovereignty, or its relationship to development in very specific kinds of ways, like tourist industries, as well as having a heavy emphasis on discussing colonialism and globalization in different ways. So.
Well, I mostly involve the students in my Hawaiians class in the service learning. I've always done it from the first time I started teaching. One of the projects is to work here at Kapapalo'i of Kaniwai. And we started working here when it was just California grass, and you couldn't see and there was no water coming into the land. And we started to clear it with the group Ho'okahipai Ho'ula'aina, and then we helped bring the water from the stream into the Lo'i Kalo. And I've had my students continue to work here at the Lo'i from when it was opened until present. They can also volunteer at the Heia Kea fish pond, and I take my students with the Army botanists to do protection of the indigenous rainforest there by removing invasive species, and we work all over the Waianae Mountains, including Mount Kaala. And my big one is that I take my students with me to Kaho'olawe, and we go with the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana. And when we're there, we work with the Ohana on whatever projects they have. Right now, the project is to open up around the island trail called an alaloa, which will be to better steward all of the ili on the island, and also to have our annual makahiki ceremony be able to make the circuit right around the island.
Yeah. And I'm planting my seeds right here, and you're not around to see. But I know in time you'll be eventually. Meet me on the other side.
Life wasn't always so good, still trying to think that I could. But every time that I tried, it seems I'm up to no good. So I stay back on these streets, back where my friends and folks be. Back where this dirty money's the only thing that's helping me. But nothing stays the same, eventually you change. I lost a brother from these streets off this dirty game. And ever since that day, I pray for better days. I pray the Lord to watch me and my family. Mistakes I made in the past, mistakes I've learned to go past, mistakes I know now that made me a man. And I am what I am, and you be what you be. Meet me on the other side, on the other side.
Green trees growing in my backyard. I'm on the other side where the grass grows, and I'm planting my seeds right here, and you're not around to see.
Well, I hope that through service learning, they learn the values that we speak of in class. The Laulima, to work cooperatively together, Aloha Aina, to respect and care for the land, and that they will apply that in their lives. I hope that they also get a sense of the importance of giving back to the community with what they learn. And my dearest hope is that some of them will become long-term members of the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana. I've had quite a few students who have made a long-term commitment as well to work for Kaho'olawe and to protect it on a long-term basis.
I think I got more of them hooks than ends, but don't even pretend. I'm up and in my pursuit for the throne. Bring it home, mama, we don't have to struggle anymore. Green trees growing in my backyard. I'm on the other side where the grass grows, and I'm planting my seeds right here, and you're not around to see. But I know in time you'll be eventually.
And I think in the early days, I mean, there was some controversy about whether we were really an academic program or whether we were a program that was devoted to mobilizing people and being out in the community, and doing the sorts of things we're doing. This was academically legitimate, and I think we were way ahead because at this point, community service programs and listening have become absolutely essential to the genuine education of college students. And we were there like in the 70s, saying that this is very critical, that people are out there, people are broadening their sense of the community, working with homeless people, or working with poor people, minorities, or immigrants, and this is what America is all about.
My focuses in ethnic studies are on Asian American studies, and in particular, looking at it through approaching it through urban studies. So. What I'm interested in is looking at the ways that the way cities are designed, and the way architectural design contribute to issues of power, as well as inequality. And so thinking about the ways that city design has contributed to, in other words, like social engineering, and in ways that these kinds of things are about contributing to questions of power in our society.
I teach American ethnic and U.S. ethnic and race relations, and I have a course called Ethnic Identity, which is now morphed over the years into looking at just people's identities, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah.
And because I think that's critical to what we do in the world, what our identity is. And I just introduced a course last semester, of all things, which I'm teaching next semester, which is called Global Ethnic Conflict. And this is a response to the fact that, in the Middle East and Syria and every place, Sri Lanka, every place we look, multi-ethnic societies seem to be imploding. There seems to be a lot of tremendous amount of conflict, and I want to look at that and try to understand what the similarities, what the driving forces are there solutions, because most of the wars in the world today are not between different nations, but within nations by different religious, cultural clans, different ethnic, different tribal groups, and we need to really understand that to have a much more peaceful, tolerant world. I mean, it's a dangerous world, and we need to understand why this has become such an explosive issue.
What are some of the common career paths that you see alumni from the Ethnic Studies Department take?
I think almost anything. I think a lot of people teaching, social work. I mean, there's some obviously the caring professions, but other people may want to move into law. They may want to move into business, whatever. I think it's a major or a double major with ethnic studies really sort of gives you a background and the knowledge and the feel to really move into a lot of different. I mean, I think what we're interested in is critical thinking. We're interested in teamwork. We're interested in your ability to function with other human beings, to transcend cultural limitations, all of that. And from what we hear, that's what employers are interested in. They want people like the kind of students, hopefully, we're training, people who can write well, who have some degree of, some degree of articulation, who can really work with others in a communal framework, and that's what we try to do in our classes with problem solving and critical thinking, and really looking at the world to have a more sophisticated sense of what the world's about. That's critical.
Because I think every major will say the same thing. They'll say like, yeah, you can be a lawyer, you can be a businessman, woman, you can be everybody gives you the same pitch. So I'll just sort of speak from my own experience. So out of college, I didn't really have a plan. I was an ethics studies major too, but I knew what I wanted to do was that I wanted to do something related to arts and education. And I had a couple of mentors who are professors but also writers. And they, at the time, so they were ethnic studies professors, but on the side job they were writing for Source Magazine, Vibe, like Ebony, other kinds of really huge magazines, but also smaller things. And so I was like, wow, you guys are amazing. You guys you teach at this university, and then you interviewed a Tribe Called Quest, and then the same or Master P or whatever, and but what really inspired me about their writing about hip hop was that they use their ethnic studies sort of point of view and education and teaching to then write about music in a different way. That wasn't just like, oh, 5 mics, buy this album, but it was like, how do you contextualize Master P's work within a larger set of social relations and political discussions? And Master P was, there's one, I keep saying Master P, but there's one article that my colleague did, and I thought it was a really in-depth feature about him that wasn't just like, oh, I like making gangster rap or southern rap, but it was like, I came to this because of my relationship with Tupac, but also other kinds of things around politics and recognizing race in his life and blah 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 blah.
We're basically a unique program which attends to local issues and local people in a way that most other programs don't, or universities don't. I mean, so we've got a lot of support in that sense.
I'm on the other side where the grass grows, and I'm planting my seeds right here, and you're not around to see. But I know in time you'll be eventually. Meet me on the other side.
It seems like you can't get out of the door. I'm always remember you ain't here no more. Daddy's in the front porch crying a lot. Oh, mama, you're beautiful. I don't need to let you go. Ronnie P. Slaughter to me. August 16, that maze came out of the pen. 2003. My baby mama kept my daughter away from me. She don't remember me. Don't even know my name. Sickles out, Space's little brother back in the pen. With Bishop and Lobster and Crazy Little John B. My nigga Jinx Soldier and OG Kappa and teenager. You gave birth to baby and now back on welfare. Another mouth to feed, but all my money in my bank account went down on weed. Birthdays and birthdays, it felt like a curse day. Intoxicated with plain eyes, still I'm thirsty.
Green trees growing in my backyard. I'm on the other side where the grass grows, and I'm planting my seeds right here, and you're not around to see. But I know in time you'll be eventually. Meet me on the other side. me on the other side. Meet me on the other side.